Welcome to the official podcast for the HBO doc series 100 Foot Wave. I'm Nicole McNamara. Assuming you've seen the show, you know me as Garret McNamara's wife, partner, spotter, sometimes psychologist, and now you can add podcast host to my list. For the next 6 weeks, after every season 2 episode drops on HBO, we'll be here with a new episode of the podcast to discuss what happens on screen, as well as the relationships and emotions that happen when the cameras stop rolling. And while this is a show about big wave surfing, it's also about much more than that. It's about ego, sacrifice, and pushing yourself to impossible heights. It's about how no one can do this alone. As you can imagine, there's a lot that doesn't make it into the final cut of the HBO series. So at the end of every episode, we'll also share some exclusive bonus footage from this season. So stick around for that. Also later, we'll talk to Lino Bogalho, someone who has played a big role behind the scenes in making everything you've seen possible. But first, I'm here with my husband, Garrett, to talk about the first episode and what's to come in season 2.
Well, thank you for having me, Nicole. It's such a pleasure to be here.
We have a season 2. Is that crazy to you, or did you know it all along?
After the season 1 was done editing, I had a really strong feeling we were getting to season 2. We pretty much knew it.
How'd you make that happen?
Being myself, I guess.
What were some of your favorite parts from season 1, just out of curiosity?
I don't know, just the story, just seeing all the old scenes that a lot of times I was watching myself and I was like, who's that guy? Was I actually like that? Did I actually say that? No, come on, no way.
Do you think there's been an evolution of Garrett from season 1 to season 2 that people are going to see a new Garrett?
I think there's been an evolution of Garrett from before Nicole and after Nicole. And as long as I work on myself, then I'm always evolving. And that's what I love about life. I've been working on evolving.
That's really sweet, but that doesn't tell us much about what we'll see in season 2.
Season 2 is action-packed.
Episode 5, we have some near-death experiences.
Yeah, every episode is hold on to your seat. Hold on to your seat.
So everyone just watched episode 1 for the first time. It just aired. What were some of the memorable scenes or segments from episode 1 that stick out in your mind?
Well, they really just started digging deep into the Tony's life and then the giant swell at the end and the wipeout with Kailani and Cody's big wave and Tony's big wave and Lucas's wave that I would say should have been the world record.
You mentioned Tony, that we go a little deeper into Tony's life. Was there anything you learned about him that you didn't know already, or that made you more connected and vested in watching Tony's evolution as a big wave surfer?
Well, I learned that he looked up to me in the beginning when he was a little boy and said he wants to be like me. That was pretty, it was nice to see and nice to hear. And
for everyone listening, I know you can't see Garrett's face, but he clearly got a little emotional when, he's talking about Tony mentioning how he looks up to Garrett, since he was a little boy. And Garrett, you probably have a lot of people who look up to you. Do you realize that? And how does that feel when you find out like you're some people's hero, like you're some people's inspiration? What does that feel like?
I'm so grateful and so happy to be where I am in my life, but it's a big responsibility. So everybody's so impressionable, and you got to make sure you're living in a good way and doing good things in a good way, and that can be super challenging. And if you're not, you can be hard on yourself. So just not wanting to actually be an example, and then actually being an example and having to live in a good way. Don't have to, but doing our best to share things in a good way.
I don't remember exactly because I've had so many babies, they've sucked all my brain cells. But do you remember the first time we met Tony? I mean, I know he was a little kid for sure. Is there any session of his that stuck out as to when you realized like he's on a mission to be one of the top and elite big wave surfers in the world?
It was last year. I was watching him surf from the beach, and he had a really bright board, and so I could tell who he was, and he was surfing really good.
So you just feel like last year is when you felt that he was really wanting to be a top big wave surfer and make that his career? I feel like I've kind of known that for years, that he's on this mission to be one of the best.
I've known that he wants to be, but he finally impressed me last year.
So when we originally started this journey of having our lives documented, it was really just us. It was our family, you know, CJ and Cotty, who is one of our best friends and has been with us since the beginning. And now in season 2, we're starting to see these other characters really step up and play a deeper role in the ongoing story of the 100-foot wave on this series. So how does it feel having Justine and Fred and now Tony, you know, playing a bigger role, and us, you know, just kind of being sporadically more sprinkled throughout the episodes?
I think the main reason that Chris and Joe decided to do that is because they were afraid somebody else is going to catch a 100-foot wave. And I kept telling them, don't worry, if it comes, we're going to get it. But they just weren't. They just had to make sure they were ready just in case. Definitely helps the show. You know, more characters, more stories, more interest. You know, different types of people want to watch different types of people. And there's definitely some different types of people now. So it's fun. I love watching Fred and Justine. I love Tony. I love Ian and Michelle. If we're not the main subject, there's nobody better than Justine and Fred. And Justine is a Wonder Woman, superwoman. She is the best female big wave surfer I've seen ever. And Fred, and then their story. It's an actual, true, inspiring love story. And the challenges they go through and the triumphs and the whys, and it's all deep and interesting and inspiring. So yeah, nobody better.
When we first met each other, you were on a mission to have a TV show. Like you wanted your life filmed. You wanted everything filmed. When there was ever a camera, you never wanted it to be turned off. I was the total opposite. I had no desire to be filmed whatsoever. I have no problem being behind the camera. But you loved it. And that was your mission when I met you, always. So how do you feel now about having a camera with us and having our life filmed all the time?
Well, it wasn't really my mission. My mission was to keep surfing, not go get a 9-to-5 job and be able to stay in the water. And I figured out, or I thought, that having a TV show would secure a future in the water. And so if there's going to be a camera following us and I'm just doing my daily life and then going surfing, it was a no-brainer. It was like, let's make this happen. How do we make this happen? And I was focused on it for a while. And luckily I met you because you put it all together, packaged it, and made it a reality. How do I feel? It is what it is. The camera is our friend, usually a family, somebody who's, if he's not a good friend already, he becomes family, or he doesn't last very long. It's either they're going to stay with us or they're going to be, and even the guys that don't last very long stay family. And, you know, they're when they're filming, I'm just myself. It is what it is. And I
until I get mad at you, though.
Well, I say I don't care, but I do care. But it is what it is. What can I do? And then if Nicole starts trying to say something like in an angry way, or if she's mad at me, for lack of a better word, then I'm like, oh, that's when I get kind of frustrated. There's a camera.
It's true. The only time he doesn't want to be filmed is if I'm mad at him or he's on his phone. But other than that, he wants the camera. Even if he's going to the bathroom, he calls the cameraman into the bathroom.
It's just I know that something cool could come out. And
even in the bathroom, right?
I don't mind anywhere.
So anyway, who comes to your mind that's played a pivotal role and still is, that should have more airtime, more screen time?
That's an easy one. Lino Bogalho. Yeah, if we had a camera following him all day, we'd have a whole nother show in itself.
Yeah, pretty much Lino should have his own show, especially with Lino's rules that hopefully he shares with us. Lino actually made the trek from Nazaré all the way to LA for the premiere, and we were able to corner him for him to join us today. So he's here in our hotel room for a conversation. Lino, I appreciate your journey to be on this podcast with us, with time differences and time zones and planes and trains and automobiles. It's a pleasure to get to speak with you today.
It's my pleasure.
When we first got to Nazaré, just a little background on Lino, he wasn't doing anything related to water sports.
Nothing.
Nothing related to water sports. He is not a surfer, and he has never surfed even to this day, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Have you been out on a jet ski in the big waves? In the big waves?
In the big waves, no, not too much. Yeah, no.
So,
I make stupid things sometimes.
So when we arrived and we had our project that we were working on with the city hall, Lino was the guy. Like, if we needed anything, he would make it happen. Even as he was saying we didn't have eggs, he would make that omelet with no eggs for us, whatever we needed for this project. And we needed jet skis. Lino found the jet skis. We needed a trailer. Lino found the trailer. We needed a car. Lino found the car. We needed sweaters that had our names on them. Lino made those.
Posters, banners, billboards.
So for different reasons, our project was very successful. It accomplished all its goals, but after 3 or 4 years, it morphed into something else. And we all, at that point, everyone on the team really had to almost go on their own and reinvent what the Nazaré project was going to be to them individually. And at that point, Lino started making it possible for these other surfers that were slowly starting to come to Nazaré and wanting to follow in Garrett's footsteps, Garrett and Cotty, and CJ. CJ was there too. So these surfers were coming from all over the world, and they didn't know where to get a jet ski. They didn't know where to get a trailer. They didn't know where to put their stuff in the harbor, because in the harbor there are all these warehouses, and the warehouses are rented out by the fishermen, because Nazaré is a traditional Portuguese fishing village. So the fishermen dominate the harbor, and all of these warehouses belonged to the fishermen. So Lino, being the entrepreneur that he is, he started to rent a couple warehouses, and he would rent the jet skis, and he would have all the equipment that someone needed to be able to go out into the waves of Nazaré, because we all learned from each other in those first 4 years, and Lino learned what it's needed and what it takes to go out in Nazaré. So first the Brazilians come, and then the Germans, and then they all come. And Lino's the one that helped them get out there. So he is really the big wave surfing outfitter in Nazaré. He's now he's overtaken the harbor, and you pretty much can't go out in the water if you're not friends with Lino. No. No.
That is not polite.
Don't cut it out.
No, don't cut it out. Leave that in there. Because he could get you stopped if you wanted to.
Yeah, you could. You have really helped people follow their dreams. And that's the truth. These people come here, and I don't know if they've really realized it, but Lino has made it easier and possible for so many of these big wave surfers to come and live their dreams. But let's go back to that. He has been the father to so many people coming to surf these big waves. So he has this giant warehouse that he's turned basically into a locker room. Every athlete that he helps in the winter with their big wave stuff, they all have their little locker room cubby
with their name on top.
Yeah. And my favorite thing of all time is Lino's rules. As Lino was saying, in the beginning, we had no rules. We were making our own rules. And now Lino has made his own rules. And he has them printed on a sign because he is the printing master. Garrett, do you know Lino's rules?
Rule number 1, Lino's always right. Rule number 2, Lino's always right. Rule number 3, Lino's always right.
Lino, what are the rules?
Pretty much that.
Close.
Yeah, the first one is Lino is always right.
Number 2.
Number 2, if you have some doubts, read the number 1 rule.
If you're not sure, read number 1.
Read
that was it.
That's it.
And then also, one thing I love about Lino, to just say that no matter where you see him, no matter whether it's raining, whether there's ice hanging from the buildings, it doesn't matter, rain, snow, sleet, hail, you will always find Lino in a pair of board shorts and his Birkenstock sandals. Always.
Not anymore Birkenstock. Now they are from Nazaré Waterfront.
Oh, okay. Now he has his signature. He has his signature Birkenstock-esque
blue
waterfront color, ocean blue slip-ons.
That you can buy. Are you selling them?
Yeah.
When we met you in 2010, you were not living in Nazaré. You were living in Benedita. Did you used to visit Nazaré when you were little?
Yeah, all the time. My first time I stay 1 month in Nazaré, I have 20 days in my life.
20 days old?
20 days old.
What do you remember about Nazaré back when you were a little boy? Like, how would you describe Nazaré? What are your memories? Was it mostly all Portuguese people, or did tourists come from other places?
On the summer, we have tourism, and we have the Portuguese guys. They stay in France, Luxembourg, Switzerland, other countries in Europe, and they come back on the summer and they go to Nazaré. Always they go to Nazaré. 2 months on the summer normally. But that's it. And after you have some tourism, but completely different we have now, for sure.
How would you describe Nazaré in the winter before we arrived in 2010?
It's completely different. Completely different. I say this lots of times because when we go on the boat, we explain some parts, okay? And I always talking about this. We have a Nazaré before McNamara and after McNamara. Nobody could say, it's the same. Nothing, it's the same. The sand on the beach and the water is the same. Okay, the Mother Nature is the same. But all the other things are completely different.
What have you seen change since the first time we showed up in 2010 till now, Garrett? Like, your feeling of Nazaré being there in the winter, our first couple of years, to Nazaré in the winter now?
It felt like it was kind of a rundown town, and it felt like everything was kind of deteriorating. The buildings, the paint, a lot of spaces weren't rented. It just really seems to be thriving now. It was interesting when we got there. Those big crises. Greece had just collapsed like a month before we got there, and so the word on the street was and in Portugal as a whole was, we're collapsing next month. I mean, everybody was just. It was a very challenging time for the whole country. I love seeing the ladies with the fish on their head and the laundry on their head, and the dressed in black, and the fishermen and the traditional, the boats, and that was all there, and that was it was holding strong, but the town was not doing too well.
I feel that the tradition was almost more alive and vibrant in 2010 when we first showed up. You could really see the culture. You could see those ladies. You could see their connection to the sea. And yes, are they even more now connected to the sea because they have surfing and they have fishing? But there was a different energy back in 2010 of their connection to the sea. It was a much deeper, more familial connection because the families were so embedded in it. And what I remember is just, it was very quiet and misty. I just remember like misty mornings of no one on the tofu sidewalks, as I call them, because the sidewalks look like little bricks of tofu, and you just walk in the morning, it would be misty and a little wet, and there would be no one. And you and I, we would go run in our morning runs, and we'd run to the lighthouse, and there would not be a soul. There was this peace and quiet in the winter in Nazaré, and now the energy is vibrant and chaotic and sometimes intense, and egos and people and tourists and all the shops are open, because back then, like, especially in November and December, all of the shops were closed. It was hard to even find anywhere to eat.
You remember, I have some little memories. You remember when on the day you make the wave after our record, change all the thing. I found you both in a car on the middle of the road looking for the warehouse, alone. You are alone there talking with Nicole, and I passed there. Nobody make that road on that day. And the waves stay there in front, vroom, vroom, and like a big swell. And nobody goes down to the lighthouse. Nobody. It's completely different. For years, that lighthouse has been there since the 1500s. It was built. And when we came in 2010, no one ever, I think only Dino would go there and watch the waves. No one would even walk down to that lighthouse. No one would drive down to that lighthouse. It had never been open to the public. I mean, that alone to me is one of the biggest changes that this project has brought, is the opening of that lighthouse so that the whole world can come and enjoy it. Since we're talking about first impressions, what was your first impression of us, Garrett and myself? We got a good connection straight in the first moment. I think it's natural, so happen fluid. And that I'm not a guy from the surf. Everybody know that. I never make surf in my life. And I stay there helping. And if I talk about this, probably people gonna say this guy is completely crazy. How it's possible to make that? I stayed there 4 years helping with nobody give me 1 cent about that. You remember one day? Mm-hmm. One day he got a problem there on a wave with something, and you stay near the rock, that cave, you know. And you ask me, I talk about this sometimes, you ask me, what are you doing here, Lino? Why you stay here? You don't remember that? No. You stay completely furious with something, I don't know, something. Because in the first moment, it's not like now. We don't have nothing. Nobody have nothing.
We had nothing. Yeah.
You have to make omelets without eggs.
Yeah.
And I think that is the DNA who make this happen so good and so big around the world, because nobody made it. You understand? Nobody make the direction or the rules. Now we make this or like that. It's natural, you know? And that's why it's so strong, in my opinion. We saw what the other guys make it, other places around the world, and we adapted to our conditions, and we make it better, I think. And probably now we stay in condition. We have to listen more other guys who have experience how to take care of this big thing, you know, because now this is really big. We have to think like this. In 10 years, 20 years, our kid from Nazaré, born in Nazaré, could get a house for live or married in Nazaré. We have to think about this.
Yeah.
And that is, it's not for, of course it's for everybody, but it's not surfing. It's not waves. It's more than waves, okay? I have to stop talking.
No, but it's true. We have to be aware of what we're creating right now to make sure that it's still Nazaré, that it's still the culture, that the women are there in their black sweaters and their black skirts, and they're carrying the fish on their head. And if we don't manage it, like you're saying, it's going to be all different cultures, not to say the ones that are really taking over right now. But yeah, we have to make sure that the children born in Nazaré can stay in Nazaré.
And afford a home in Nazaré.
Exactly. That's what Lino's saying. We have to manage that.
We have to make our part.
Yeah, we have to do what we can.
Yeah, that's it.
Speaking of before and culture and preserving Nazaré, when we first arrived, we were welcomed by our team, for sure, which was about 5 people in Nazaré. They were very excited we were there, but the rest of the town didn't want to acknowledge us. They didn't talk to us. They didn't really smile at us. It was like they really had no desire to know us. And at first it was really weird. We're like, wow, everybody around here is kind of grumpy, and it was rainy and cold. And we're like, why is everybody so grumpy around here? And everybody's sad, and the ladies walk around with just sad faces. And we're like, wow, it's a little sad. It felt sad. Would you describe it any other way, Garrett, or is that accurate?
Very accurate.
Okay. And we later learned why there was this,
Well, they're very loving and open.
Yeah.
But they didn't seem that way because...
Yeah, because there was this cloud over Nazaré related to the sea, because we've referenced some of the old ladies walking around in their black outfits. It's because they wear black every day because they've lost a loved one out in the ocean from these massive waves. So before we came, the ocean really represented a place of death and of despair and loneliness and tragedy. And we also learned that the reason they didn't want to get to know Garrett is because they heard of this crazy foreigner coming to surf these huge waves that were only known for death, and they didn't want to get to know him because they thought he was going to die. And then after a few times of him going out there, they realized that he was crazy enough to survive these waves. And then they
Calculated.
Then they began to open up, and they've become our family. Like, I have a sister there. She's
the one that explained it to us. Like, she had no desire to know us because it was a fact. I was the guy that they didn't want to get to know us, didn't want to like us, because then it'd feel so sad if when I passed.
So we know what the locals thought before, when we first arrived, that, the ocean is a place of death. Lino, how do you feel that the locals now view surfing and surfing these giant waves?
You always have someone who don't like it. Okay, but that is not the important of the thing, because it's one small group for sure. Okay, we call them velhos do Restelo. Okay, old men from a little part in Lisbon, the people who want everything quiet like last century. Okay, and that is the thing. It's like imagine your family, females normally stay on the sand on the beach waiting for the men who are arriving, and we don't have forecasts or internet. And the ocean in Nazaré could change everywhere, but in Nazaré with more amplitude
and
changing.
There was no harbor, so there was no
harbor,
safe,
so the people have to go out with the boats on the beach. Okay, so imagine you stay there and your family die in front of your eyes, because we have one thing. Normally the people don't talk about that. Normally the fishermen don't know swimming. Okay, they go and if they fall to the water, it's done. Okay, and a crazy guy American guy arrive with a crazy thing, with some toys, make stupid things so that's why we have that. Okay, and now it's completely different. Okay, because it's not only Nazaré, it's all the area. In 2011, I say we have 3 things from Portugal around the world. We have José Mourinho, the special one, Cristiano Ronaldo on the football, and Garret McNamara. I say these lots of time. Now I don't say anymore, because now it's not that, it's more than that.
In season 1, it starts off with what we've been talking about, our project, just us, just this really tight-knit unit. We were the only ones in the water for years. We were the only ones on the lighthouse for years. And then towards the end of season 1, we see, the teams coming in. And, some of those first teams that came to Nazaré after what we created, they didn't put the time in, as we were just saying is necessary to ride the giant waves of Nazaré. And we saw the very first near fatal accident at Nazaré. Do you feel any responsibility for all of these people now in this first episode of season 2? We just see there's so many teams now. There's so many people, as Lino was saying earlier in this episode, that he's getting random calls from everyone, and it's just beyond saturated at this point. There's more people than waves we're seeing in this episode. And what does that bring up for you? Like, at any time do you think, oh my God, this is because of me? If something happens to one of these people, it's on me. And you too, also, Lino, like, you're helping them get out there. So what's that feeling for you?
I was always an open book for anybody who came and willing to share and provide whatever I could and give them the ability to get the right boards. And if they had any questions, I was an open book. I didn't like imposing. People never really listen if you impose anyway. That first year when I had the accident, I wasn't going to share anything. If they came to me, I was going to share, but they didn't. And Nicole's like, Garrett, you have to go tell them if they fall, they go south. And so I told them, and they didn't listen, and
they went the opposite direction.
Yeah, so that ended up happening. But I did feel responsible, and I felt a lot of sense of responsibility for anybody who was coming. That's why I was really wanted to share whatever I could to help them survive. And then the Navy captain, he said, Garrett, once they enter the water, you're not responsible. We're not responsible. You're not responsible. Don't take any responsibility. Don't feel responsible. It felt good to hear him say it. I still kind of felt responsible anyway, but it did take a load off my shoulders.
These surfers that we're watching now in season 2, in this episode, they haven't put the time in like you have. They didn't go to the Hydrographic Institute and sit there and learn the ocean floor and the canyon. They just haven't put the time in that you have, and they're going out there and trying to be King of Nazaré, Queen of Nazaré. How does that make you feel?
Well, to be honest, I was out there on the last swell a few weeks ago, and I was having so much fun watching everybody surf. I had no desire to ride any of the waves. It was the Gigantes. And I was just like mesmerized and in awe of the ability of all the surfers now that are out there. And there's so many new, really good surfers. The bar has been raised. What Lucas and Kai doing, now everybody's doing that. They're all flipping around. And
what comes up for you when, it's really great when everything's going awesome, but what happens when the driving isn't up to par, their backup safety isn't up to par, then some crazy accident happens, their spotter isn't up to par, or they don't even have a spotter, they haven't, put the time in, they haven't even taken the time to watch what you've created as far as the ultimate safety there. What are your thoughts on that?
I've been, the last few sessions I've had, I just try to remove myself from everybody. Like, I'll make sure Cody drives away from everybody. I don't even want to be around anybody. And I just stick to what we're doing and don't try not to let them, not let it bother me at all. But you can get the best ride and have the best time, and then going for the next wave and some guy cuts you off or just, and you're like, whoo, you're so happy. And then you're like, fuck, I want to kill that fucker. Yeah, I've been so lucky that we were there when there was nobody. I had my fun. And now I don't mind watching. If it's perfect and it's really good, then I might catch a wave or two. But I don't feel I need to anymore. I still enjoy it. I don't want to put my body in don't want to put my body in harm's way. So I like feeling good. I don't like being in pain. I used to have to be on every wave, every swell, everywhere in the world that a big swell was going to. If I had the ability to go, I had to be there. And if I wasn't and I had the ability, then I would be on suicide watch. And when I rode the waves in the past, I would always put it all on the line. I would try and go as deep as possible to try and get barreled or do a good turn. But the goal is always to get barreled. And nowadays, I'm trying to not put it all on the line on every wave. And I'll take off on waves and I'll kind of ride it safe. But then it just doesn't feel good. I want to go deep.
So let's say, hypothetically, I am in Kentucky and I feel like I want to be a big wave surfer. How do you get calls or emails? Like, how do people reach? All the time.
All the time. We cut the opportunity to go straight on the water on the big days. You don't imagine.
Do they show up or they just email?
The people just arrive. Some people, more crazy people who have some money, or they think the money could buy the skills or the opportunity. You don't imagine all the big swells, how many people we cut that opportunity. Because some people, because now it's Nazaré, it's for the world, okay? And for the surfers they think they have skills to make big waves. It's probably 1,000 guys in the world, more or less. I don't know, and they arrive there and they think, let's go. We don't put people on the water like that. They go on the small days, they develop, and after go up, and get more and more.
They have to prove that they can drive. They have to prove it.
They could go there. Okay?
They have to put the time in.
Yeah, that's it. And some people think this is, but it's like that I don't want to be part of, we have some guys around. On our small community of big riders, we have some guys, they think sometimes that waves are only for himself, you understand? And I don't have that opinion. I think if you go to the water and if you really are a good surfer and be a good surfer, it's not only make good surf, it's more than that. You have to respect the other ones on the water.
If Nazaré was a woman, because I think she's a woman, so we're going to go with woman, what would her personality be like? Can you describe how she would be?
Come on, Garrett.
Go for it.
I think she have a power, for sure. She give the order, she make the rules, she make the direction, the balance. Almost everything you could get in Nazaré, you put them on female, okay? And the wrong things, you have to put them on the males, okay? It's more or less like that. And on the village, it's more or less like that. If you go check, they have lots of the power to make the direction, the correct direction.
And Garrett, do you have any other thing?
I know deep in my heart that she is a woman and Mama Nazaré. And she's very unpredictable and just beautiful, powerful, always keeps you guessing and wondering what's next, what's going to happen, what's well direct. I mean, she's so, I would just say she's super unpredictable.
Ooh, I like that. A powerful, unpredictable woman. That sounds dangerous. You know, we talked a little about what Nazaré was when we first got there. It was super quiet and super peaceful, and we could go down to the lighthouse and not see a single soul. We could run along you know, from Mollyland all the way up to the lighthouse, and there would be nobody. Any memory that sticks out of a peaceful moment or something that we wouldn't be able to do now because there's so many people there?
Making a baby in the bushes.
Yeah, that's it. that you don't put there.
But somebody did walk up on us.
Yeah, it's not possible to make a baby in the bushes at Nazaré anymore.
Not anymore.
Baby Beryl.
It's actually funny because
The spot stay there.
the spot is there, and Beryl knows the spot. So if you ever go walking through the forest in Nazaré with Beryl, he will be the first to say, "This is where I was made." Before we let you go, here's a bonus clip from the HBO series that didn't make it into the show. Garrett is in Hawaii and gives Andrew Cotton a call to make a plan for the upcoming swell.
Morning, sir.
Morning, you alright?
Yeah.
What's on? What are you up to?
We watched movies all night, so.
All night?
Tired. Pretty much.
You've been watching movies all night?
Till about 2.
Whoa, man. Movie bender. So what's your plans then? Have you got any?
Well, I'm getting really good at dodging swells.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Well, although not, because you scored in Hawaii, so...
What's it like in Nazaré? Is nothing's open, though?
Nothing's open. There's hardly anyone here. It's just the only people that are here, are the Brazilians. Like they're all here and rocking it.
Well, just got your powder going, your vest and your wetsuit.
Legend.
And I'm gonna pack it all up over the next couple of days. I fly out on the 25th.
To Portugal?
I don't think I get there. Yeah, I don't think I get there till the 27th or 28th.
Wow, oh, that's amazing. Epic.
All right, well, we'll see you.
See you in a week.
5 days, a week.
All right, mate. See you in a bit. Thank you. Cheers, mate. It's nice to have someone you trust and you connect with out there. Not to say it always goes well for us together, but we kind of he's fat. He gets the best ways. He gets me the best ways out there. I've been really lucky, this season to surf with different people, and sometimes it's a massive benefit, it's a positive, but other times it's just hard trying to line people up, who you feel safe with. You want to get good waves, and you want to feel when you get rescued, you want to feel that that you're confident on the back of the ski.
Tune in next week to hear my conversation with Andrew Cotton. This has been the official podcast for HBO's 100-Foot Wave. I'm your host, Nicole McNamara. You can stream new episodes of the HBO original series 100-Foot Wave every Sunday at 8 p.m. You can listen to the next episode of this podcast right after. Can't wait to chat with you next week.